Hey you guys, it's me Rachel here with Senza Tempo Cane Corso. I'm out here with all the dogs and I want them to go to the bathroom here before I let them out in the back because it's overgrown. I need to use my lawnmower, but I did the front part of my yard first today. I did about half of it. And I need to do the other side of it, and it's a lot to mow. One day when I'm rich and famous, I'll hire somebody to do it for me. But in the meantime, I'm doing it. Structure, pretty boy. So yeah, they're waiting to go out, which I'm not gonna let them go yet. But all the dogs are doing really well. Cashmere, I started to notice that she was bleeding a little bit. Not from her incision, but actually from her vulva. And I did look it up, and it can happen. But in the meantime, I'm not going to have her out because I don't want to risk any type of injury. And my vet told me to just kind of keep an eye on it and just make sure that it doesn't get worse. So that's what I'm doing. So yeah, we'll just kind of go from there. So she's inside and Misha's inside. I've noticed that when I try to bring Misha out with the rest of the pack, I'm working on training a lot of the pups right now, and she is just kind of all over the place, and trying to train 3-4 puppies all at once with, Misha is just too much. Everybody has their limitations. And for me, adding Misha to the mix, on an outside thing with no fence is just too much for me right now. So we'll have her in videos inside the house, but not outside. So yeah. So anyway, but yeah, she's inside right now. So, trying to make sure that everybody goes to La Baño before we get out there, because like I said, it's overgrown. And my fear is that if they do go out there, they're not going to see it, and then they're going to step in it, and that's going to be nasty. So I'd like for them to all go out here, but they're sitting here waiting for me to just let them out. So I know that Reese Sprezzatura, she did a video today talking about Corso development, and I really wanted to also kind of cover that as well, because I don't want to go too much into it, but there is kind of a hate mob against me that took some pictures of Nirvana and basically tried to insinuate that she's sway back and that she's really high in the rear and things like that. And they took some pictures of Batista when he was 8 months old and tried to insinuate that he had a bunch of stuff wrong with him as well. And it really goes to show, like, anybody that actually is very familiar with this breed and has ever bred a litter of puppies, which these people have not, they're just pet owners, knows that the development of these dogs is very complex, and they go through these very weird stages, and one of those stages is that more often than not they get really high in the rear, and then it goes away. It goes away if it's in there, if it wasn't there whenever they were a puppy. So for example, I've got pictures of Nirvana when she was much younger, and she had a very nice top line, and I do absolutely believe that she will get that top line back again. And nothing about her development at this point makes me think, like, it's nothing like what we saw with Giovanni, right? Giovanni's top line wasn't good, so that's one of the big reasons that I rehomed him. And if I thought for a second that she was going to be a swayback dog, I clearly wouldn't keep her. But I do think that it's really important for people to understand that Belladonna, that what a dog looks like when they're 8 to 9 weeks of age isn't what they're going to look like whenever they are 4 months of age or 6 months of age. They Corsos go through this thing where they get really ugly as they're growing up because they're just such big dogs. They do this thing where they go up and then they go wide, and then or not wide, but I would say long, and then they go up and long and up and long, and I call it like an inchworm kind of growth. But like, for example, right now, our boy Mad Mortigan right now, he looks just super square, right? Like, I've talked about it before that the Corso should be a rectangle, and he just looks super square right now because he's going through a phase where he's getting tall, and so they go real tall, and those legs get real long, and they basically get too long for the body, and then they lose that length. Now, I will say that some dogs are square. Some dogs, that is, an issue that some of them actually need to be corrected on. So, for example, some dogs you may need to breed that dog to a longer dog because that dog may be square. I've talked about that with Preacher. Preacher is square. He's not super square, but he is square. He could be longer. And so it is really important to recognize that there are no perfect dogs, that a lot of Corso in our breed are square, so it's something that we're all really working on. The croup of the Corso has been something that has been a problem for a long time. In fact, Basir, which is a pretty well-known dog from the past, actually had Preacher's croup, which is an incorrect croup. And so we're all working towards fixing these issues. But, as many people know, this breed has been in recovery for not near as long as most breeds have. And so it's to judge these dogs harshly is really kind of counterproductive. You're not judging a breed that has been worked on for as long as, like the Labrador. And so it just isn't, anybody that's breeding usually already knows this. It won't stop people from talking mess. If it's one thing I've seen, even especially recently, is that pretty much everybody talks crap about everybody's dogs. It's really sad. I started a group recently on Facebook, as you guys know, and I've had these people that don't like me that have been trying to gain access to the group, and I have friends of mine that are in the groups that they are a part of, and they've been sending me screenshots of things that have been said. Sometimes they're like nobodies, they're literally just random people who have a pet Corso, and they know that some people don't like me, and so they decide, well, I'm not going to like her too, because they don't like her and I want to be liked, so they want to be a part of a community, even if it's just a community of hate. And then some of them are actually like breeders that have been around for a while that have a bad reputation for being really snarky and being very critical of other people's dogs, even whenever their dogs are not perfect. I mean, nobody's dogs are perfect. And so I do try my best to kind of stay out of that kind of stuff. It just is something that I don't feel is very productive because, like I said, you can't, you can't really know everything that's going on with a person, like what I talked about with that other video with confidential kennels. And I think that it's just better. You'd have more success in life if you spend less time talking about other people and more time just trying to work on your own life and your own program. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And so, I just caution you that if you see things being said, definitely consider the source. You know what I mean? And just because somebody has a big kennel name behind them doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good person or that they are very knowledgeable. I mean, keep in mind that the German Shepherd breed was ruined by what would be considered in their community top-notch breeders. You know what I mean? These dogs, the Westminster, it was Crufts winner, the one that caused all the hubbub because the temperament was very weak and the dog, the structure was just horrible roach top line and all that stuff. And that's a champion breeder right there. So I think that it's very important to recognize that in the breeding community, it really isn't a very clear way of determining decent people versus non-decent. And I for me, one of the ways that I think you can tell is, at least the way that I do it, is based upon the actions of that individual. So do they go around trying to tear other people down? Are they overly critical? Are they nasty when you call them? Are they rude? Are they mean? Are they judgmental? How do they talk to you? How do they treat you? You know what I mean? Those are the kinds of things that I think can really tell a lot, because from what I've experienced, a lot of the people that know what they're talking about, they are more open-minded and they're nicer, because they recognize that every dog has its, negative traits and positive traits, and we're all trying to achieve the perfect dog, but that in itself takes time, and it takes breeding. And I know that there are people that like to be super critical of me, and I get it. I think for me, what I understand is that I have a following that a lot of breeders that have been doing this a lot longer than me have. And I think that's what throws people off, is they don't realize that I really shouldn't be judged to that standard, because I haven't been breeding that long. Not this breed, you know what I mean? And I'm just really getting started. I've only had, one breeding pair to start with. And so, I'm just getting started. I'm only on my second generation, you know what I mean? So it really doesn't make any sense to be trying to compare my dogs with people that have been breeding for 10, 20 years. You know what I mean? That's not really fair. So anyway, like I said, with the uptick in, hey, quiet down. With the uptick, hey, Valak, no. Cut it out. Mad Mortigan, no. Batista, quit riling everybody up. Belladonna, leave it. With the uptick in people staying home from work, which I've noticed seems to coincide with the amount of hate mobs that have been kind of coming after me. I would just say that, like I said, that you really kind of, consider the source. And I really know that I don't really have to tell you guys that. This is more for new viewers, things like that. And also just for people that don't really know the development of the dogs. Batista is acting like a big uncle that doesn't know how to act. Hey, cut it out right now. You cut it out. Batista, stop it. Stop riling everybody up. Man Mortigan, no. That's enough. No. You cut it out. You stop riling everybody up. Stop it. No, I said stop it. He thinks it's funny. I don't like him riling everybody up. So that I don't like energies to get that high, personally. So anyway, Vitani, get down. So anyway, so that's really all I want to say about it. Like I said, is I did have somebody, I think Connor, asked about a dog being high in the rear, something like that. And like I said, these are puppies. When a breeder thing that we used to say is look at them when they are 8-9 weeks old, and then close your eyes until they're grown, because they're going to do some really weird stuff, and you cannot judge them based upon what kind of weird growth spurts they go through in that period of time. You have to give them all the time they need to mature, and these males need all of 3 years to mature. I don't know if you can see Preacher. He's literally sitting here. He seems like he's not doing much, but he's actually kind of keeping an eye right now. And so anyway, Batista is a puppy. He's nowhere near where he's going to be whenever he matures. I know the pictures that they used of an example of him have already been outdated. I've already got better pictures of him stacked up. He already looks better. Even now you can see that he doesn't have a super high rear. So, and I got pictures of him when he was a puppy that they look horrible. You know what I mean? Absolutely horrible, because that's what they do. They go through these weird stages. And most breeders don't show that. They know better, because they know that people that don't know better will look at that and they'll be like, oh God, look how horrible that dog looks, because they're not breeders, and they don't understand that these dogs go through these weird phases. So oftentimes you won't actually see, you'll see a puppy picture of a dog, and then you won't see that dog stacked up again for a long time, because people people don't want you to judge, early on a dog that, that isn't actually going to look like that. So like I said, judge a dog by its 8-9 week old puppy pictures until it's fully grown, and then if it turns out bad after it's fully grown, after it's an adult, then you can say something. But you can't judge a 3-month-old puppy, a 4-month-old puppy, or an 8-month-old puppy. You know what I mean? And beyond that, you know what I mean? You can't judge. You can't judge puppies. It's just the truth. When they're 8-9 weeks old, they go through this period where they actually look like, what most breeders have found is that most dogs will look like what they look like at around 8 or 9 weeks old. That's when everything is still in proportion, and then they just start to go out of proportion. They start to do these weird growth stages. So anyway, so I just wanted to kind of touch on that, and hope that kind of helps educate people on that stuff, and that I know that there are always going to be people that are going to be critical, and there's nothing that I or anyone else is going to say that's going to change that, because they have an internal bias and they want to believe that stuff. But this is more for the people that don't know any better, and are really looking for the truth. And I mean, I'm telling you, ask any decent breeder, like a good person, not a person that's constantly involved in drama. I'm talking like a good, honest person. Ask them, do these dogs go through growing stages? You don't have to take my word for it. You know what I mean? Or ask somebody. In fact, if you really want the truth, ask somebody that doesn't breed a Corso. If you wanted the truth, talk to somebody who breeds Great Danes. You know what I mean? That's another breed that goes through some really funky growing stages, and they can tell you all about it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of breeds that go through these weird stages, and those people will typically be pretty honest about it. So anyway, I hope that kind of helps to kind of go hand in hand with what Sprezzatura talked about today, and to kind of try to create some honesty in a world where people are really trying to make a living off being dishonest, and trying to make a name for themselves, hating on the back of somebody that's already made a name for themselves. And I think they called them clout chasers, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, get down, Belladonna. So anyway, so I just wanted to kind of touch on that. Like I said, I'm always trying to educate, and hope you guys are having a good day, and I'll talk at you later. Bye.